Hello Legacy students, Marsh here. So today we're going to talk about if then else if statements. These are basically the next level after these nested if statements that we looked at last week. These are definitely a more useful version than the nested if statements in the regards that they look a little easier and they are, I would say, a little bit easier to use as well. So you're probably saying, well, what are these? Well, basically it's just a quicker way to write a nested if statement. And what's nice about these as well is there's less indentation and it makes it 100% easier to read. You don't have to have a bunch of end ifs at the end. That's another thing that's really, really useful. It only needs one end if. Let's take a look at an example here. So here's a general form in Visual Basic. Notice I just got my if statement here. So if condition, then statements. Remember, condition is something that can convert between true or false depending on what it will evaluate as. And then I have these else ifs right here. Notice there's no space in there. It's just literally the word else and if put together. And then it's another conditional. So theoretically all you're doing is you're just, instead of nesting that if inside of the else, you are putting it right beside it so you don't have to have that a bunch of indentation. And again, as I said, there's only one end if way at the end of this particular thing, which makes it a lot easier to read. Let's take a look at an actual example with some code here. So I have dim int age as integer, and I'm going to say if int age is greater than or equal to 17, then I'm going to display, you can see an R-rated film alone. Then if int age, then also I'm going to check to see is int age greater than or equal to 13. If that's the case, I'm going to look for a PG-13 film. Then I'm going to look for a greater than or equal to 8. I'm going to say you can see a PG rated film alone, and if none of those work, I will only say that they can only see a G rated film. So let's check it. Let's make sure this code A runs correctly, and B, let's see what these display. So if int age is 19, now remember what that means in visual in the computer. So in the computer's memory, there's a box, and we're naming that box int age. We're putting a 19 in there. So every time that this computer looks for the word int age, it's going to look into its memory, see that there's a 19 inside the box that is set aside, and then substitute that 19. So let's check. If int age, again, int age we said is 19, and we're going to check, is 19 greater than or equal to 17? Well, it is, right? 19 is definitely greater than or equal to 17. So if that's the case, since that's true, we will display that they can see an R-rated film alone. Now, since we have displayed that, everything else is null and void. We're not going to look at those. These are only used as backups in case the guy in the first guide did not work, okay? So only one thing will display. If you go into an if, you will not look at the rest. You're going to go immediately to the end if. Let's check the next one here. So we're checking 14, it says. So again, in memory, 14, int age is going to be assigned 14. So first thing we're going to check is 14, which is int age, greater than or equal to 17? No, right? 14 is definitely not greater than 17. So then we're going to go to our else if, the first one. And we're going to see, is 14 greater than 13? Yes, right? 14 is definitely greater than 13. So since that's the case, we will go inside of that else if and display that they can see a PG-13 film alone. Okay? Since I went into this else if, we are not going to go inside of this, check for this, and we're not going to go inside the else. We're going to go immediately to the end if. Once you check one and it works, once you hit a true, you're not going to continually plug in. You're only going to check one of them. Now let's try 5 here. Let me get my eraser. Oh, missed a cover. There we go. 5. So we're assigning it 5 this time. Int age is 5. So let's check. Is 5 greater than 17? No, right? 5 is definitely not greater than 17. Let's go to the next one. else if is 5 greater than or equal to 13? Definitely not. So we got to go to the next else if. Is 5 greater than or equal to 8? No, right? So then this else is the final straw. That's the last thing. That is the last resort. That is, you know what? Nothing else is working. Here's what we're going to spit out. And since that is the last resort, what we're going to say is that they can only see a G-rated film. Okay? Now, theoretically, there's a couple of different ways to write else-if statements. Theoretically, you can build from the highest to the lowest, or you can go lowest to highest. I like to go from highest to lowest, but now keep in mind that you always do want to check for, if you're going from highest to lowest, you're going to want greater thans on your signs. If you're starting with the smallest, so let's say we started with a G, I would have done if int age is less than 8. Then I would say that they have a G-rated film only that they can go see. So think about it, guys. They are a little confusing to write on your own, but always check a couple of values just to see to make sure your code is in fact working. You don't want to be like that nested if statement where with the grades where it got confusing and it spit out A's when it should have been an F and vice versa. Let's take a look at one more example. So I got S and G weight, and it's less than 5, less than 15, less than 25, and it looks like it's some form of like a mailing or something of that nature. So they're saying, well, what if weight is 23? What happens if weight is 23? So first thing I'm going to check is 23 less than 5. No, right? 23 is not less than 5. So I cannot display this. Let's check the next else if. Is 23 less than 15? No, right? So we gotta check the next else if. Is 23 less than 25? Yes, right? That is a true statement. So since that is a true statement, what we're going to display is cost is $7. Okay? Let's check 5. So first thing I'm going to check is 5. Oops, forgot to erase this one. 5. Is 5 less than 5? No, right? 5 is equal to 5, not less than. So let's check the next one. Else if is 5 less than 15? Yes, right? That's a true statement. Since that's a true statement, we're going to go inside of that else if, and I will display cost is $5. Now they're saying, what if I use 35? So let's try 35 now. Is 35 less than 5? Marsh, definitely not, right? That's not a true statement. Let's try the next one. Is 35 less than 15? No, we're going wrong way, right, Marsh? So let's try, what's about 35 is less than 25? Yeah, no, definitely not, right? So we're going to go to, again, our last case scenario, the else, and we will say that that package is way too heavy. We can't ship it. It's way too heavy of a package. So theoretically, for our mailing, this company, we cannot mail anything that is above 25. Probably pounds or something along those natures. And that's the end of this video. What I would like you guys to do is attach your note sheet to Classroom and turn it into me so you can say, yay Marsh, look, I watched the video, so that way I can give you some points for it. Until then, I will see you later, Sabers.